Are tourists a part of your business? If they are, today I'm going to show you how to find out what the statistics are for those numbers. You might already know if you're in the tourism industry, but if you're in a business where you likely rely on tourism and you want to know more about the tourists coming to your town, I'm going to show you the ways that I know of to help you find those. One of the things we're going to use today is ChatGPT. I do not believe that ChatGPT should ever be used as a source. It's kind of like Wikipedia. It's a great place to start. So I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT to start your research, and then I'm going to show you some other places where you can find those numbers. Now, keep in mind, tourists are usually referred to in the research industry as overnight visitors. They may also be called day visitors, and they're often the hardest number to find when you're doing research for a project. The reason that they're the hardest to find is because usually the companies that keep these numbers are convention centers. And most convention centers are in larger towns. Also, to be quite frank with you, a lot of overnight visitors will not go to smaller towns unless there's something there to specifically bring them there. There has to be some kind of attraction. So today we're going to look at attractions. We're going to look at malls. We're going to look at convention center reports, and we're going to look at the cities because that's the other part of this equation. A lot of times the cities will gather this information and make reports out of it for the businesses. The first place I want to go to with you to look for research would be ChatGPT. So I've already put the address in here, chatgpt.com. And like I said, this is a great starting point. Don't ever take this as your final source, but you are going to ask it for sources as well. I'm going to start with overnight visitors in Chicago because it's a big town. I would basically ask ChatGPT, give me some overnight visitor reports for Chicago and include the sources. Now, depending on the question that you do, the answer is going to be constantly different. And you can see right here, it's giving me some different numbers. 2023 continued growth, 2022 post-pandemic recovery, 2021 initial rebound, and then, of course, pre-pandemic peak. This is really important because a lot of businesses in 2020 really suffered due to COVID. And the numbers dropped dramatically. I mean, people were housebound. So it's always good to look at the pre-pandemic numbers as well as what the numbers are now. A lot of those businesses took at least 2 to 3 years to recover after COVID. Now, you can see here too, there are little links at the end of each one of these that has what the sources are. I'm going to right click on each one and open it in a new tab because I want to see all of those. And what I really want to see is I want to see that they are different sources. Here is the first one, Road Genius. Who is Road Genius? We don't really know. But if you look at the corner over here, it says car rental and camper van rental. Obviously, this is a site that has gathered tourism statistics because they are in the tourism industry if they're renting out camper vans and cars. But you do have to wonder, how much can you trust this? Now, the good thing about it is they do include some tables and stuff. And this is a well-written report. I did look at this earlier. So it's something that I might actually consider as a good source for if I were looking for overnight visitors. But again, the question becomes, where did they get these statistics from? One of the best things you can do is follow as many links as you can while you're doing this, because the first number you find isn't necessarily the correct number. But they're saying there's approximately 50 million visitors each year. And in 2019, the city experienced a peak year welcoming 61.58 million visitors, which means from 61.58 to 50 million visitors. That's a pretty significant drop from before COVID. It reduced the total number of visitors to 16.52 million, with international visitors falling to just under 500,000. That's pretty significant. 2020, you go from 62 million people roughly to just under 16.5 million. Ouch. I was here in Chicago during COVID, and it was crazy. I can definitely tell you that. I was also flying as a flight attendant during that time, and it was pretty much crazy all over the country. Now, here you can see they did an excellent job with this table. You've got domestic visitors, meaning from within the U.S. They've got good numbers for that, and they've got an international visitor statistics, which is a great thing to have too. So they claimed 50 million, but from their table here, you can see it's 52 million. And you can see the before and the after. The question again becomes, where did they get this table from? There's no source listed, so did they make it? Now let's look at the next table. This is a 2022 economic impact. And they're saying they had 49.4 million overnight visitors in that year. Let's go back to this table and see. They're saying 48.62 in 2022. They're saying 37.4 million were domestic leisure, 10.6 were domestic business, and 1.44 million were international visitors. Over here, 1.44. They got that number the same. Then you can see other things like tourism-related jobs. Usually if you find a report like this, you're going to see stuff like hotel information, like right here. You'll see occupancy rates because that's the kind of stuff that the cities and the convention centers would actually track. We got hotel revenue, tax revenue. Usually the reports are much longer than this. This is just a snapshot. I know they have a more current one, which I would be more likely to trust this than the other one. This one, they're called Choose Chicago. It's basically a tourism report. Now this one here, it is chicago.gov. It's the actual city website. Like I said, the cities like to track this because it's information that they want to share with their businesses. This was written June 15th, 2020, and it's about tourism in 2021 compared to 2020. You can get some numbers here. Average occupancy rate was a 63% increase over 2020. Finally, this last one here, we're back to Road Genius. Same table. It looks like it took me to the same page for Chicago, and ChatGPT just used it as a resource. Now, what I would do is I would then say, give me a 5-year table of overnight visitors for Chicago and include the sources, divide the categories by visitors and overnight visitors. Let's see what it comes up with. Now, I like to ask it for tables because it will actually break it down for you. You can try this for your town. The nice thing about ChatGPT is it can go where you can't go. It can find a bunch of information and pull it together for you. So you can see from this table, it's saying that the total visitors was 58.31. And look, 2019, 60.83, which was different than this one, which said 61.58 million. This is why you want to double check your sources. You've got day visitors, you've got overnight visitors, and for 2022, it says it's at 48.84. Now, I do know that this one had a 2023 report. When you see a report like that, then you can go in and you can try to see if there's a more updated report. It's called an economic impact profile, 2023 economic impact. Here's the Chicago tourism page, and there it is. Visitors, 52 million. 36.9 were domestic leisure, 13.2 were domestic business, 1.83 million were international visitors, 26.7 domestic overnight visitors. Overnight visitors is one of the expressions you're looking for because those are the people that come and stay the night. Whereas day visitors might be like people on cruise ships that come in just for the day and then they leave. Or it could be somebody that literally is just coming to town for the day, maybe for business, maybe because there's a concert going on. A lot of cities will track that kind of information too. Now, the other place you want to look, Chicago Convention Center, overnight visitor statistics. I try to put as much information into Google as I can. And I like Google because they've indexed everything that's on there. If you'll notice when I do that, it's pulling up Choose Chicago again. So that means Google also thinks that Choose Chicago is one of the best places to go. It also is pulling up Road Genius as one of the top statistics. It looks like ChatGPT probably chose those two as sources because they were the first two options in Google. The nice thing is if you're doing the research yourself, you can go down the list and you can see what other stuff is there. So for me, if I was looking at this, yes, I would have looked at Choose Chicago. I would have glimpsed at Road Genius and I would have wondered who the heck they were. Now, GuideStar, I happen to know, is a fantastic source. GuideStar is one of those sites that gets a hold of people's tax forms. Because they get the tax forms, they're stripping them down and they're putting them into tables and you can use that information. This particular page, Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau. So this is going to have to do with their tax filing. Here's their mission, which is probably in every tax statement that they send in. And filing started in 1971. Contact information as we scroll down. Program 1, 49.3 million domestic international travelers visited Chicago in 2022. So back to ChatGPT, 2022. They say 48.84 million. So you can see why I say it's a great starting point. It pulled the sources from the first two search engines. We scroll down, McCormick Place Convention Center. This would be a good one to look at because, like I said, a lot of convention centers, they try to hold on to the information. I did open McCormick Place Convention, so let's click on that. This is giving the snapshot of their business. A lot of times, if you go into these sites, you can often see if they have reports. And look right here, Choose Chicago is listed on their site as a place to go for statistics. This has just brought me full circle back to Choose Chicago, which means that most likely the best statistics I'm going to find for the different years of overnight visitors is actually on this particular tourism site that's been created. If your city has the report, you can actually just look it up. If I were to say Chicago overnight visitor report, it's giving me some information here. A lot of times this is really good information too, because this is something that I believe Google Gemini is putting together. It says Search Labs AI Overview, but Google Gemini is basically Google's AI feature that you can use. I found when I compare the two that I kind of like ChatGPT a little bit more. Again, we're coming to Choose Chicago Research. Here's journals and topics, Northwest Chicago, welcome 3 million visitors. This was written in February. Annual reports. Here we go. You want an annual report. And the reason you want an annual report is it's going to give you everything that you could possibly want to know. This one is for 2019. I might try to find this for sooner. It doesn't hurt to have one from 5 years ago because that is the numbers that your town can expect once they have fully recovered from COVID. Here's revenues. And as you go down, you're going to see all kinds of stuff. Economic impact, tourism-related employment, direct tourism spending, total tax revenue, occupancy rates, average daily rates, rooms available, rooms occupied, Chicago hotel tax revenue, meetings and conventions. As you go down, you're just going to see all of these things. Some of these things you could take a snapshot of, you could throw it into your business plan, and then you have something that you can show to your investors. Like, these are the types of people I'm going to attract. It's going to give you ideas on where you might want to advertise. Initial website performance, international marketing. Now, if I'm going to look for this again, this annual report is called Choose Chicago Annual Report 2019. So let's search for that. Choose Chicago Annual Report 2023 would be hopefully the most recent. Annual Report 2022 looks like that one is the most complete that they've done. So they probably haven't published their 2023 version yet. So I'm not saying 2023. If I had searched for it, the first site that would come up would have been the one where we would have found it. So here's 2022, and we can scroll down and you see a lot of the same stuff. Hotel occupancy rates, estimated tourism-related stuff, booked events, booked rooms. Every report is different because each report is done by a different research company like what I do. A lot of these reports will actually do in-person surveys with people coming in. They'll collect information from hotels. They'll collect information from airports and bus stations. They will try to collect it from convention centers and special events, and they will gather all of this data together for you if you live in a bigger town that has the budget and has the money to do this. If you live in a smaller town, you are not going to find it at all. Now, this next tip can also be as useless to you as if your city doesn't have a convention center or your city doesn't track this stuff. But it's a third place that I would look if I was doing an actual research project. What I would do is I would try to find the malls near me, and I would try to see if they have reports. They're usually run by big companies like Simon or I think Westfield, or I'm blanking on all the names right now. Because they're bigger companies, they actually have the money to try and get the statistics ahead of time because they don't want to put a mall somewhere where there aren't the people to support the mall. They create these leasing brochures every single year, and they do these leasing brochures to attract tenants. So they will give you the actual demographic breakdown. But what I did to get some sources from ChatGPT is I wrote in, give me a table of 20 malls in the Chicagoland area who have leasing brochures with demographic information. It didn't give me 20 because it doesn't always give you what you asked for. It gave me 8 of them. It gave me where they were located in the Chicagoland area, and it gave me links to their leasing brochures, which is exactly what I wanted. I've opened up a few of them here, the first of which is Bean Streets of Woodfield. What it led to was this page right here, property details. If you come over here, here's demographics, here's leasing brochures. That's exactly what I want. I'm opening up the demographics and I'm opening up the leasing brochure just to see what they have. I'm also going to open up the property overview. You never know where they're going to put these numbers. So the first one is a property overview, and they're literally just giving us residential density. Located 40 minutes northwest of Chicago with a population of 127,207. Obviously, that's not all of Chicago. That's very likely where they're located in Schaumburg. It says top employers in Schaumburg has 11,000 plus employees. So think about that, 11,000 day workers coming into that area. That's a number that you want as you're looking for who your customer is. This is the stuff you want to put into your business plan. Then it's going to give you all of the stuff that they have because they're basically promoting their own business. Now here are the radii, and they've done up to 50-mile radii. And then this one here has the 5-mile radii, and they have put in, look at this, Woodfield Mall. Let me zoom in on that. 17.3 million annual visitors to just the mall. It has over 280 stores and restaurants. Top Golf Renaissance Schaumburg Convention Center. They got a convention center right across the way, so you could probably get more stats from that as well. And then the golf club. Within a 10-mile radius, there's 928,000 people. Average age 41 years old. Average household income $115,600. That's good to know. Most people that are going to come to this mall are within the 10-mile radius, but it is located on 2 freeways, and they could come from farther in. It is considered an attraction, a mall of that size. So a 50-mile radius can be expected if you're A small business, that's a good place to put your store because you're going to actually be able to attract more customers. They're going to be coming from farther in. I'm done with that one. Let's go to the flyer. This is another thing I like about the malls. They will put the actual traffic counts, how many people drive by the mall. This one says it's highly visible from the I-290 freeway with traffic counts of over 142,000 vehicles per day and a daytime population over 200,000 within 3 miles. That's fantastic. 40% of population within 5 miles is college educated. This is the kind of stuff you want to know because that's where your money comes from. Now, again, smaller businesses, they're looking at a 1 mile to a 5 mile radius. So even though this is a shopping center, they're still looking at 5 miles or less because it's a lot of small businesses in that shopping center. There's your daytime population, meaning your day workers. Here's your population that lives in this area, households, average household income. This is the kind of stuff that you want to find, and the malls will put it together for you. The shopping centers will put it together for you. You want to look for leasing brochures from professional leasing companies. The next one, the shops at Killdeer. Here's their leasing brochure, and here's their demographic profile. High traffic shopping center. Here's their anchors. They actually put in how much square footage they have at each of these places. That's all they've got in that leasing brochure. Demographic profile, I guess they took that down. Sometimes they do that. So if you're close to a mall, definitely get their information. Here is the fashion outlets of Chicago. Look, the 2023 population. Here's what they're projecting the 2028 would be and what the growth is. They're saying that they think it's going to shrink. Here's the households. They believe the households are going to grow. But I guess the individual population they're expecting to shrink. The income, the average, median per capita, the ranges, the median age, education, race, ethnicity. This one has really gone on all out because they really want to track people coming in. Employment daytime population, 1, 3, and 5 miles. Like I said, most businesses are 10 miles or less. They're estimating 5 miles because they're in the Chicagoland area. They're right here on the I-294, which is a toll freeway, and the airport is right over here. They could actually do more. They're doing conservative estimates for their business. And they're saying within a 5 mile radius, there's almost 15,000 businesses and 234,503 employees. The daytime population of people coming in just for the day, probably for work, for other things, we're looking at 421,127 people coming in. So they're really doing this up. The village of Rosemont, a suburban metropolis, welcoming an average of 75,000 to 100,000 visitors a day. Those could be day visitors. They could be overnight visitors. There is a convention center right across the street from there. There's a lot of hotels in that area. The Rosemont that I'm thinking of is mostly the convention center and the fashion outlet, and there's a mall, and there's a lot of parking, and then it butts up against the airport. I'm going to end that here. Keep in mind, guys, if you're not finding your information from your city, if you're not buying it from your convention center, check your local shopping centers, check your malls, if they're professional ones. Because if they have leasing brochures, a lot of times the demographic information that you want is in that. And look for the ones that are closest to your business, because that'll give you a good idea of what kind of demographics you're looking for in your area. If you want something more specific and you want to know what your tourism numbers are, it's a great way to go. Yesterday, I talked about the U.S. Census. If you want to find out actually the people living in your town, in your zip code, in your census tract, stuff like that. In tomorrow's video, tomorrow will be day 15, I'm going to start a new series and I'm going to do reaction videos for the next week. I'm going to react to people who are actually giving business advice to businesses. I've found some business professionals that I think are very good. I'm going to react to them and kind of gives you the researcher's point of what it is that they're saying. So come back tomorrow to see that. Thank you guys for watching and see you in tomorrow's video.